Last time, I opened my walk of the A4, going around 6 miles from its source in Avonmouth to the Clifton Suspension Bridge, with 2 miles remaining until I finish the day in Bristol, and that is where I pick up for with episode 2. Hello, my name's John, filmmaker and slightly experienced walker, and last year I decided to go on a bit of a journey. I wanted to walk the length of the historic road linking the west coast of England to London. There'll be highs.
That guy behind me, he's just going in circles.
And lows.
This rain is annoying me now.
And lots of walking. Please enjoy this episode of Walking the Length of the A4.
We are coming into Bristol now. I think I'm on the wrong side of the road because the road splits in two and the A4 is on the other side of the road. We have found our way back on the A4 and we're not currently on it, but if we cross over this bridge then we'll be back on the road.
So far, it seemed to be going very well for me. I was still optimistic about how far I could walk. I was still riding the high of actually being on the A4, and I was making very good progress, but as I was crossing the footbridge, the weather took a turn for the worst.
As soon as I got on that bridge it started raining again. It's only just gone 4 though, that's the thing, we're actually doing very good for time. I was hoping to be here by 6, but no, we're doing very good for time actually.
Not wanting the weather to delay my arrival to the Premier Inn, I had to make a run for it.
Welcome to Bristol, the home of steep streets it appears. This rain is annoying me now. I'm like a mile away at most. And raining like this is horrid. So this has really annoyed me actually. Another thing as well is this camera is running out of battery. So next shot you see might be at the hotel. Alright, I made it to the Premier Inn. I didn't have any time to film anything. Well, I didn't have any inclination to film anything because it was raining and it was horrible. Managed to get a couple of shots, but they were not good. And also, if you're wondering, this is literally just a Premier Inn room. If you've ever been to a Premier Inn, they're all the same. You've been to every single Premier Inn. The view is always just a building.
I tried to compensate for the lack of filming the final mile of the walk on the first day by taking the little GoPro rip-off out to Bristol with me that evening. Despite Bristol being quite a nice city, I couldn't stay there more than one night, as that's all I'd booked. Actually, that brings me on to a bit more of my strategy for the walk. I had booked 4 consecutive overnight stays in cheap hotels, a month before I set off. They were in Bristol, Bath, Chippenham and another place that I'll discuss later. I'd walk between all of these places over each of the next 4 days, and then I'd reach a final town on the 5th day where I would return to Reading, and then do the remaining legs of the walk in my own time. Although, once again, more of that will be discussed later. For now, we'll head back to the Premier Inn. Good morning, it's day 2. Today's when I walk from Bristol to Bath. But first of all, before I do that... Right, we are back exactly where the rain got too bad yesterday. We're going to finish off the Bristol walk in the next like 20 minutes and then we're going to start off the Bath walk straight away afterwards. So, yeah, we're carrying on where we left off yesterday. We're starting right now. Within half an hour, I reached the Premier Inn, and at that point, I could officially start the second leg of the walk. Right, I've just started walking the second leg of the Bath. I've just got to get to the main road, turn right, and literally not too far after that is where the A4 picks up again, and I'll be on that again until the end of the day, even though there is one section where I'm not sure if I will be on. If you're expecting an explanation into what the hell I'm talking about right now, you give me way too much credit. But what I can show you is my progress out of Bristol.
He's just going in circles. Can you see him? On his bike. Alright, here's a little thank you. Here's a little progress update. I'm just leaving Bristol now.
If you're wondering why I've stopped for lunch at this roundabout, it's because this is the start of the Castleshire bypass. I feel like a more detailed explanation is needed. The plan for the day was to walk from the Premier Inn in Bristol to the Travelodge in Bath via the junction of George Street and Milson Street. That took me through the eastern side of Bristol, Castleshire and Salford, but there was a problem. The A4 continues as a 70 miles an hour dual carriageway along the Castleshire bypass, with no footpath and very little in the way of pedestrian safety. It's for this reason, not wanting to risk my life, that I made the decision to briefly leave the A4, walk through Castleshire and rejoin the main road when the footpath resumes, shortly before the end of the bypass. Or at least, that was the plan.
Right, I am failing walking the entire length of the A4, but I'm going to still walk to all the places on the A4 and keep to where I can walk on the A4. I'm currently on the edge of like the dual carriageway. I just look at it and I think this is just not designed for pedestrians at all, and you know that it might be wide enough, the grass is going to be really thick and I'm going to get really weird looks. Like, however, whatever it takes, I need to get back on the A4, and that'll be the hardest part today. And once I'm back on, that's fine. But that's the next course of action. So we're going to cross back onto the footpath now. Hoping not to get killed by one of these cars. I think I'm okay. I thought that car was honking me for a second.
I didn't mention it at the time, but this was to be called Planned Hiccup 1 out of 3. Hiccup referring to where I couldn't safely walk the A4, but I'd still followed a vague route and rejoin where it's safe to do so. So for all intents and purposes, I still walked the length of the A4. So that was the plan right now, walk through Castleshire and hope to end up at the end of this bypass, but as you'll soon see, that didn't go entirely to plan.
Yeah, we're off the A4 now for the first time in the walk. I really hope I'll get back on it soon. It's that bloody bypass, which I knew was going to be a problem. I knew that would be a problem, right from when I first looked up the A4. I mean, it also allowed me to go through Castleshire as well, which I wouldn't have done if I'd have been on the bypass.
In this montage of clips, I have to apologise for my pronunciation of Castleshire. When I was there, I pronounced it Castleshire. Only later I realised it was pronounced Castleshire. I am sorry, but in my defence, English town names are notorious for not being said the way they're spelt. Anyway, back to the walk.
A little bit of bad news, it's starting to rain.
Oh dear.
You won't believe this, I've literally had to take refuge underneath the church. It was raining quite bad and I checked the weather again and it's still not bloody forecast.
So there I was, in Castleshire, well away from the A4, rain tipping down, literally taking refuge under a church. Things couldn't get any worse. Surely not. This is where things went from bad to worse.
Right, down there is where I want to be, the A4. So I honestly thought that the A4 would be above me, not below me, so I don't know how I'm going to get back on it, but we'll find a way.
Needing to get back on the A4 from where I left it, I had to navigate the back roads of Castleshire to rejoin the road around about here, but finding that point proved very difficult for me. After a while, I stopped filming, but trust me, it took an hour to get back on the A4. I was not in a good mood.
It's raining, I'm not happy, but I'm back on the A4. The weather really turned bad when I stopped filming. And I turned bad. So I must have tried 3 attempts to get bloody back on the A4, but luckily third time lucky. Yeah, I think it took me about, I'd say about an hour. It's been about an hour and a half since I was at the Keynsham bypass roundabout. If there'd have been a footpath like this all the way along, I'd easily be at Salford by now. Yeah, I'm now back on it. My cameras are also running out of charge a little, which is bad. But you know, I'm back on the A4. I'm getting a bit better. That's the first sign like that I've seen on the whole road. So I know now I'm 7 miles from Bath. I think it's 20 miles from Chippenham and 38 miles from Marlborough. That's like a long way, but we're doing it multiple days. But you know that, well, fingers crossed, with a bit of luck, Friday I'll pass through Marlborough and I'll say to that sign I did that. 7 miles to Bath though is the most important thing right now. That's doable. It's currently I think 2:30. Yeah, I could do 7 miles in about 3 hours while filming. But I might want to stop off somewhere to charge up the cameras, so I'm guessing another half hour on top of that. So I might get to Bath around 6, which is later than yesterday, but after what I've been through today, I just want to be at a hotel.
Entering Salford, needing a little bit of energy back and a place to charge my cameras. As if by magic, the Crown appeared right in front of me. So there I was, at a pub between Bristol and Bath, feeling worse for wear, not sure how the rest of the day and the rest of the walk would go. However, to find out how the rest of the day went, you'll have to tune in next time.